moved to California in 1990, and I was doing some research there at UC Berkeley. And that's kind of where I got interested in wine. So we ended up staying in California for 16 years. We went and toured a lot of different wineries. I tasted a lot of wines, especially Pinot Noir, and started making wine at home. So we could go out and harvest grapes from different vineyards. And I got all the equipment on a small scale and made wine at my house. So that turned out to be a lot of fun for me. And meanwhile, I started working for some companies developing different types of flat panel displays. And so that was sort of my chemistry part. But eventually, I decided that wasn't all that satisfying. I was working hard, and I was thinking at the end of my life, basically all these, did I want to just work for a corporation that's basically just interested in making a lot of money? Yeah. And so I decided, my wife and I decided that we should change careers and do something that we really believed in. It still turned out to be an awful lot of hard work, but at the end of the day, we thought that would be more rewarding. So my parents, they were cyclists, so they were cycling, and they came to the county on a cycling trip, and I guess that was probably in the early 2000s, and then they discovered that, hey, there's some wineries here. So Mary and I came as well up here, and we tasted some of the wines that were coming out. This was probably like 2002 or 2003, and the Pinot Noirs especially had the flavors that I really liked, and we really liked the soil. Lots and lots of limestone rock here in the soil, which is also really good for Pinot Noir. And we were excited about this new region that was just up and coming at the time. So we purchased some land. We purchased, I guess it's 25 acres in 2003. I was still in California then. And we planted our first acre of vines in, this is scrolling, okay, that's cool. Our first acre of vines in 2005. And that was all Pinot Noir, and we chose to plant really close together. So it was like high density type planting like you would find in Burgundy, because we thought that would give the best quality fruit. When you plant them close together, there's competition between the roots, and that sends the roots down deep through all the fractured limestone. Also, for each plant, you don't have to have as much fruit on it to still get the same yield per acre. So hopefully you get more concentrated flavors. So that was the theory. So we planted our first acre. So I knew how to make wine. We didn't really know anything about viticulture. So that was a big challenge. We figured we'd plant, how we decided to do it is just plant an acre at a time and make sure that we were able to manage it. And it did turn out to be a lot of work, a lot more work than you might think to manage a vineyard. You really have to be on top of it all the time. And the other added challenge here is that it gets a little bit too cold in the wintertime for the varieties of grapes that we really want to grow, like Pinot Noir and Chardonnay. So in order to have them survive, have the buds survive through the winter, we had to do this procedure called hilling up. And one or two of these show some vines that are hilled up, one of these slides. But yeah, basically we plow up a lot of dirt all over the vines, and we take some fruiting canes on either side of the plant and tie them down to a wire at ground level to cover them with dirt, so that if it gets below around -22, they're still going to be good, and we can pull them out in the spring. So it's a completely different type of trellising and management system that you can't really look up in a book or anything and find out about that. But as a community, we were all kind of discovering how to do this together. So there was a lot of support. So we could go to all the other people that are growing. We'd get together. We'd talk about how to solve the problems. And so yeah, it was. And also we had a lot of help from a person from Omafra who would come and organize grape study meetings and get us information from some of the viticultural experts that we have here in Ontario. So yeah, it was quite a challenge. Luckily we also had a farmer, a retired farmer that lives right next to us. So he helped us with, hooking up cultivators and things like that. And my dad is quite particular about things. So he's like sort of measuring where the tine positions go. So each tine is spaced exactly. And our neighbor Elaine goes, "Oh, come on, Cliff. It's not a Swiss watch." So we learned what was important and what wasn't from our farmer neighbors. But yeah, that acre survived and did quite well. And then we planted more vines starting in 2007. And so we planted in 2007, 2008, 2009, and now we have about seven and a half acres worth of vines, which is fairly small. They're planted close together, though, like I said. So by a normal planting, there's about 18 acres worth of vines. So it's still quite a lot of work for that amount. And we have Chardonnay planted, Pinot Noir, mostly Pinot Noir, and Pinot Gris as well. And then I also buy some grapes from different vineyards too. Sometimes from here in the county. I wish there were more people that just grew grapes here in the county, and sometimes from Niagara. But yeah, it's quite a costly thing to grow grapes here, which is one of the reasons why we don't have too many people that are just out there growing grapes that are not wineries. So hopefully we'll see that change in the future, but they need to get more money for their grapes in order to make that viable. It really comes out to be about twice as much as much money here to grow grapes as it is in Niagara, for example. So it's quite a big difference. Because of the climate? It's partially because of the climate, and partially because of the climate, and because we have to do the burying. So that's a lot of work, a lot of extra labor, and then the other thing is the yields are a lot lower, which is also because of the burying. When you're burying the canes, inevitably, like the soil is all full of rocks, so you're kind of piling up all rocks and dirt and everything over it, so that it damages some of the buds. So when you pull them out again, you never get this really nice thing where every. People have tried. Part of the problem with things like straw and sawdust is that one thing is you have to have a system of putting it on properly, so it's kind of more difficult than actually hilling up the dirt. And the other is that it can blow away, so you have problems with that, whereas the dirt stays in place more. Nowadays, people are looking into what they call geotextile fabrics that you put on. So you don't bury it at all, you just cover them in like a tent of this fabric material. And that looks like it is an interesting way of going, and so you may see some more of that in the future. Right now, it's also very expensive though to buy all that stuff and put it on and off. But I'm pretty sure that cost-wise, over a few years, you'd be better off having that geotextile fabric. Our only concern is that if you got like some really back-to-back cold days, would the temperature not drop to almost the air temperature, and then you'd be in trouble. So that's our concern at the moment. But yeah, but so far, yeah, the results are looking pretty good with that. Let's see, what else can I tell you?
Question about the snow.
Yeah.
Snow. And I think of rosebush, if we have more snow, then you may less frost damage. Is that similar?
Yeah, it is.
More snow, soil will keep heating on.
Yeah. We always, every winter, we hope that we get a lot of snow cover. But that's not, you can't count on that, unfortunately. Yeah. But it definitely helps insulate. Yeah. So, and often you'll see that the buds that are above ground but are very close do survive, and that's probably is because of snow cover in those cases. Yeah. As a winemaker, what I'm looking to do is just let the wine express where it was grown, and I think the best way of doing that is to be non-interventionist. So that's my philosophy. I don't the least that you can handle the wine, the better off it is. Every time you handle and rack and move it or filter, you lose a little bit. So you don't want a little bit of the flavors. So you don't want to do that if you don't have to. So I use traditional methods. So for example, the Chardonnay, I destem it, let it sit with the juice for a while. Some of the berries get broken up. I destem the whole berry, so no crushing. Let it sit for a while so it gets some added complexity from the skins. Then press. I'll let it sit for about a week, up to a week, a few days to a week, to let some of the really big solid stuff settle out. Then it goes into barrel, and it spends almost its entire life in barrel. So that's if I'm going to ferment it in barrel. So it gets fermented there. It sits with the lees, no racking. When it comes time to bottle, it just comes out of barrel into a tank. So I combine all the different barrels together into tank. And then if it needs to be filtered, I might filter it. Sometimes it depends. Like if there's something called malolactic fermentation, where the malic acid that's in grapes is converted to lactic acid. Most of the time in barrels that happens naturally. Sometimes it doesn't happen. But if it doesn't happen, then you don't want that to happen in someone's bottle, right? It's because it'll produce CO2 and become an effervescent wine. So in cases like that I would filter to make sure that that's not going to happen. But if it's completely done, I may not have to filter at all. And it's similar with the Pinot Noir. There's very little that's really done with that. We make sure we select all the best fruit in the vineyard. And then I destem, again, to whole berries. I like doing whole berry fermentations. Here in the county, we naturally have quite high acidity, and which is great. It gives really bright, vibrant flavors. But you also want to have quite a bit of fruit to balance that, or otherwise it can seem too acidic. So I really like the whole berry fermentation. It really enhances the fruitiness, the fruit flavors, and that balances well with the acidity. It gives a kind of a slower, longer fermentation, so there's more contact with the skins, which gives complexity. You don't get really big spikes in temperature, which can blow off some of the nice volatile aromas that you want to keep in the wine. Yeah.
The farming of the grape themselves is considered organic, or
I can say.
How do you keep pests and birds?
Yeah.
Next, but what about other?
Yeah. Yeah, so I consider our practices now to be what I would say sustainable. We are pretty ecologically minded. There's a couple of shots in there of our barrel. Our barrel room is straw bale, so which is a really nice way of getting an insulated building. We started off by being organic. So yeah, there it is being built. We built that in 2009. So yeah, it helps keep the barrels at the right temperature. There's not a lot of top soil where we are, before you start getting down into some layers of limestone. So that we decided to have like an above ground cellar. I did find, especially with the high density, one of the issues with the high density and the fact that we have to bury canes is the fruit is really low, so it's only about this high off the ground, and that means that the airflow through the vineyard is not and the vines are really close together, so the airflow through the vineyard is not as good as in a classic vineyard where they're further apart and there's longer canes. So if you get a lot of rain, there's a lot more disease pressure. So we found that I guess after 2011, we had to go to spraying some non-organic sprays as well. So basically, I spray some non-organic things as needed to make sure that we get a crop. So like for weeding, we do that all mechanically. So there's nothing there. It's all dry farmed, which was a bit of a problem last year with the drought. But I never thought that would happen here, but but there you go. You're never sure of the weather. Birds we handle with bird netting.
Speaking of the drought, they say, grapes like to starve a little bit. Was that a bit extreme last year?
Yeah. I consider it to be a little extreme. Yeah. I think for some varieties they did really well, so it's going to be quite an interesting. The wines from that year are going to be quite interesting, especially the Chardonnay did really well. To be honest, for the Pinot Noir, some of the vines decided, hey, I've had enough. I'm going to conserve all my energy and water. I'm not going to bother ripening any fruit anymore. So, whereas others were okay and went full on. So at harvest time, there's just a huge range of ripenesses. So it made for a very, very difficult kind of pick of trying to pick just the riper fruit and not the less ripe fruit. So we got a lot less, basically, is what it came to. Yeah. It should be all right. I mean, the main thing with it now is that the vineyards is so wet. Last few days it's so wet that we haven't really been able to get into it. So it's prevented us from picking up getting our canes out of the ground as fast as we maybe would have liked. So we're a little bit behind on that, but so far it's not really an issue. So yeah.
And how many people, it sounds like a lot of the work is labor intensive.
Yeah.
The process. So how many people work in your place?
We have a vineyard. Our permanent vineyard crew is 3 people, and then so they actually work usually like 6 days or 7 days, depending on what they want to do. And then I'm also doing the tractor work and spraying on top of that. So there's basically 4 of us that are working in there. Yeah. My brother actually is now doing it so that I have more time to make wine. Yeah. Yeah, that's one thing I think at the very beginning, when I was imagining what would it be like to make wine and own a winery, I didn't really realize, it's probably true for any small business if you're a small business owner, but you're there basically every single day, 7 days a week, all the time. So that is quite a physical toll.
Do you recommend a science background for me budding?
Well, it doesn't hurt, that's for sure. Yeah, I mean, it helps it makes it more easy. It makes it easier to understand what's going on, and also to do some of the measurements, because as a winemaker, you do make measurements of acidity and other things. So it does help that. It doesn't hurt, but there's other ways. I know there's other ways of arriving at becoming a winemaker, including taking a viticulture and enology course from Brock or Niagara College. And I don't know any other questions or want me to come.
Located in the county, and how much walk-in traffic do you get compared to do you sell online or SEO?
Yeah, we are located right just outside the town of Hilliard. So you'll see our signs on the 33 there, and there's one road in Hilliard, which is Station Road, and our entrance is off of Station Road. Yeah, and we sell directly from the winery. We also sell to restaurants, especially in Ottawa and Toronto, and of course some here locally as well. And we do sell a little bit now in the LCBO. Like our full production right now is about 1,500 cases per year. So we're quite a small winery. So yeah, we don't when we go into the LCBO, we're not Ontario wide, just a few stores. So they have programs where a few stores can order wine a case at a time. So we are in some stores, mostly again in Ottawa and Toronto.
What about the one in here?
And in Picton. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, the local stores too. And I mean, I guess we sell probably about 50% of our wine right from the winery. And then, maybe 35% from to restaurants, and about 10% at farm markets. Actually, we do that as well. Farm markets in Toronto, and whatever the rest adds up to in the LCBO. So that might have been maybe 15% or so in the LCBO. That'll probably grow over the years as we get a little bigger. Yeah, that's Hilled Up Vines. Yeah, that was probably our first or second year where we were hilling them up. So yeah, they're quite big hills.
They are big.
Yeah, you want to get as much dirt as you possibly can. It does erode as well. So when we have winters where where it gets warm and it starts raining, and then the rain washes down the hills. So that's not what we're looking for. We're just looking for nice mild winters with a lot of snow. Any other questions? So yeah, please come and visit us and taste our wines.
Thank you very much.